Jackhammer John was a jackhammer man. He was born with a jackhammer in his hand. Oh Lord, he had those jackhammer blues, jackhammer blues. I was born in Portland down, and I built every fort from Lasky down. Oh Lord,
welcome back, everyone. A couple of videos ago I mentioned the passing of one of my friends, and this is him. He'd come up to the Monte Cristo to visit. This is Otis Lewis. He's a mainstay up here. And
all the rocks.
We walked around the Monte Cristo, and he told us all about what used to be here.
Yeah,
this guy was just a plethora of information. He has a whole library in his house of mining.
I never saw the road like goes the way it's supposed to, but there was a road that went up there. I don't know where it started.
For the past few generations, he and his family ran the Hidden Springs Cafe up here in Angeles Forest, and he was a local known banjo picker. I got a couple of his videos posted up on my channel, so take a look for them.
I do believe. I don't know. I got a book, but I can't remember everything about it. Shoring is all gone.
Gone, yeah.
And in the second fire, there is no shoring, but there's going to be a vein.
Through the generosity of Otis and his relations, I've been bequeathed these pieces of equipment. This is a Caterpillar 15. It's about a 1929. This is a 1940 Cletrac AG series without an engine. And just in front of it is the same thing with an engine. My task is to get these running and bring them up to the mine. And with the condition the road is in, I could certainly use these. Once I get these running, I'm also getting a 1950s Ingersoll Rand compressor. Kind of needs some tires, but it's all there. Let's look at the meter here. The hour meter says it's old. But, you know, it's all there, and that's what counts. You know, got to work on something, and if it's not there, you can't work on it. We'll get this up to the mine also and put it to use. I've got 2 pneumatic rock drills that will go fine with this. So I'd like to just take this moment to thank the Lewis family for considering me and giving us this equipment. We'll definitely put it to good use, and thank you very much, Otis. Well, I started working on the Cletrac. I bought a battery for it. It's a marine battery, so I hope it doesn't sprout a propeller. But tried starting it up, and it would fire but not stay running. Fortunately, this is an electric start. But I found something with the carburetor. I didn't know that carburetor had permanent press and delicate cycle, as well as spin and tumble dry. No, there's a rag stuck in the carburetor, and along with it, some corrosion. So I'm going to have to take this carburetor up to the shop and give it a good cleaning. This is an aluminum bowl, so that's all aluminum oxide in there. I'm going to have to probably get in with the Dremel tool and clean it. But here's the float, big float, but it moves, it's not rusted up. So we stuck the rag back up in the pipe so that no mice get in there and build a nest. And I decided while I was there I would change the lower radiator hose. It was kind of looking a little skanky. Now we went over to the Caterpillar, and I remember Otis telling me that the impulse coupler didn't work right, and they weren't able to get it to fire lately. So I took the cover off the impulse coupler and looked at it. Now there's 2 catches in here called pawls, and they retard the spark so that the engine does not kick back on you, being that it is hand crank. That crank will come around and break your arm if it kicks back. So the pawls retard the timing so that it doesn't do that. And these pawls are rusted solid. They will not move. So that means that the Magneto will not retard, and it can kick back if you do get it to fire. It also contains a spring that when the pawls let go, it kicks the Magneto very quickly and causes it to spark. So I'll have to take this sucker up to the shop and work on it. Looks like the pawls are broken off on the end. I'll have to look up in a manual and see what it shows. Might as well take the Magneto while I'm at it. I'll rig it up and spin it, test it. I'm sure the bearings in there need to be cleaned out. And this is how you take apart an impulse coupler. You got to be careful with it because there's a loaded spring in there. Kind of like a tape measure. If you take it apart wrong, it's going to be a mess putting it back together. So you need a little screwdriver. And you need to pry this hub out. And at the same time, push the spring down. Inside the hub, there's a little slot that a tab on the end of the spring slides into, and that's what you need to slide out. You also need to unload the spring, so you got to get the hub to clear, and it's about usually a half a turn on the spring, but it's a strong spring, so if you pull it apart wrong, it'll hurt, and it'll be difficult to put back together. Usually you'll need a spring winder. And they do make special ones for aircraft. It's about $3,000 if you want. But anyhow, so this is the spring. It's that little tab on the end has to slide into this little slot right here. And at the same time, you have to turn it half a turn and push it in. We're going to clean it out with some brake cleaner. I'll repack it with some grease just to make sure that it doesn't rust up in the future. Make sure it stays lubed. I love this stuff. It smells so good. Okay, that looks good. Let's move on. Well, here's the plate. This is the retarding hub with the pawls, and they do not move. The pawls do not move. So I'm going to spray it with some penetrating oil and give it a twist and see if I can get these things loosened up without breaking them off. The problem is that these pawls have a pin that hold them onto the hub, and that pin is cast with the pawls. So if I break it off, then I have nothing. Okay, we got one. That's loosened up a little bit. They should flop around. You shouldn't be able to, or shouldn't need to push them. They should flop around. Let's see if we get the other one. Sure, once I get it freed up and oiled, it'll be just fine. Okay, I need to soak them, clean them up. Now, on the back side of the hub is a little ring that holds the pin that retains the pawl. And there's the hole. And you see that pin that's coming out is cast as part of that pawl. So if I had to remake these or cast my own piece, that's going to be difficult. So once I got them freed up, I put the unit back together and turned it to see if they would catch. And only one of them catches. The other one doesn't. You see it retards the timing a little bit, and then it snaps and it gives it a spark. So there's a spark there. Nice blue spark, so Magneto should be good. But it needs to be cleaned out inside too, inspected. Now looking around, I did find something out of a Schwinn Varsity. The coaster brakes look pretty close. Actually, these are a set of pawls and a hub plate that I got from rebuiltmags.com. They're located in Minnesota. The guy's name is Rudy, and this is the second time I've worked with him. He did the mag rebuild on the Fairbanks Morris mine winch that I have, and it still kicks, it still runs. So we're going to fiddle with this and take it apart again. Put the new assembly in there. See, the spring's nice and greased up now. Almost popped out. Glad that didn't happen. So we've got the new pawls and hub plate in. We'll assemble it. I took the mag apart to inspect the inside. Make sure you mark everything so that you can get the timing back. If the mag is not timed properly internally, it will not work. Now your points are located on this plate, and the plate actually rotates. Your points rotate around, and you got to have that clean and gapped properly. So we've got the armature out, and the bearings are full of a real thick goo stuff. The manual says that they need to be cleaned and re-greased every 3 to 5 years. But it's probably been, I don't know, 30 years since it's been done. So I set myself up a little test bench. Wires coming out of the distributor cap. Let's spin it and see what we get. Yeah, I'm seeing spark. Nice sharp blue spark. I turn the impulse coupler, pow, we get a spark. So this is a good mag. Now I'm going to tape down the pawls and spin this by hand. And yeah, it's firing real good, real hot. And you see this spark here, that yellow tip on it is actually the spark burning a piece of iron off that magnet. I should probably leave that for the spark plug. It's not good for the magnet. Okay, that's enough playing with the cat for today. Let's move on to the Cletrac. Carburetor time. Now, I've taken all the bolts out of it, all the jets, all the drain plugs. I got to get those all cleaned up. But you know, it just needs cleaning. It's a lot of rust and corrosion. Nasty, nasty. That's aluminum oxide. But I'm gonna have to clean this float too. It's pretty laden with goo and crud. So there's a U-shaped pin in here that I need to pull out. That's it. And we'll pull the float out. And the needle is still in there. Let's see if it even moves. Oh yeah, it pulls right out. Just got a little bit of lacquer on the tip of it. I should be able to reuse that. But yeah, this float really needs to be cleaned. With all this crud on it, it'll sit lower in the bowl and cause it to run richer. So we'll hit it with a wire brush, dunk it in this chemical stuff. Now these dunk chemicals, or dipping chemicals, you got to read the can. Some of them will eat aluminum, some of them will eat copper and brass. I'm shaking it there to make sure that there's no fluid that's soaked into it. Make sure it doesn't have a leak. But there seems to be a lot of solder on this. I don't know if somebody fixed it or if that's just the way it was manufactured. But once I got it brushed down and cleaned up a bit, I hit it with some 1000 sandpaper and it came out looking pretty nice. Now here's the top of the carburetor. It's been soaking for about a half an hour. And we'll take that and dip that in this beaker of water. Don't want to be dripping that cleaning solution on myself, although I seem to be getting it on my hand. Oh, just make sure I get both hands covered, yeah. And then we just take the old air compressor and blow it dry, blow through all the holes and crevices and make sure that you got passageway. Make sure that everything is open. You don't want to go through all this cleaning and then miss a passageway that, for instance, if your idle jet passage is plugged up, you won't be able to get it to idle. It'll run fine at full throttle or half throttle, but at idle it'll die. That's just a piece of crud. So now you get to take the carburetor out and clean it again. So you want to get in there and clean out all the little nooks and crannies and crevices you can. Being meticulous will benefit you. Now, these old carburetors are pretty basic, pretty simple. You know, it's like a lawnmower carburetor on steroids. But you just got to make sure you get it all clean. Now this part here is the bowl. And like I said before, I'm going to have to get a Dremel tool in there to really clean it up. It's been soaking for about an hour, and it's done nothing to the aluminum oxide. So I could put some hydrochloric acid in there, but it would not just take the aluminum oxide, it would take the aluminum out too, and you'd just be left with the bolt holes. And that doesn't work, so we'll Dremel it. Now I've got a carburetor kit ordered for this thing, and once it comes in I'll finish assembling it. But for now I'm just going to put stuff together and make sure that I have all the parts and kind of the places where they go. This is the inlet fuel line. You notice that ferrule rotates on the line. The ferrule is that bump in the line that clamps down onto the pipe and into the valve there. If you over tighten it, the ferrule will crush the pipe, and then the ferrule will spin by hand. So I'm going to have to cut that ferrule off and replace it with another one. I don't want fuel leaking. So just make sure everything's all blown out, everything's clear, there's no carburetor boogers in there that are going to screw things up in the future. At this point we're really not into restoration. This is more of a make it run process. So I don't really mind how it looks on the outside, but it has to work right on the inside. And at least we're better than where we started. This is how it was originally. So, gotta keep working on it. Well, that's it for this run. In honor and remembrance of Otis, my task now is to get these machines running. Until then, see ya!
Hey everybody, buy that fiddler drum, buy that fiddler drum, roll him up doobie, stick it in his hand and buy that fiddler drum. 'Cause I sing your music.